Hey, tailgaters! Ross of the Pigskin Tales podcast here. Feel that summer heat? It's not just the sun, it's the thrill of upcoming college football season, stoking the coals. So get ready for the season. Dive into the history books with Homefield, the premium collegiate apparel brand from Indianapolis. Homefield crafts incredibly comfortable gear designed with iconic vintage nods over 150 colleges. A library of history right on your chest. Homefield is the Indiana Jones of collegiate apparel, uncovering hidden gems from school archives. Unique mascots, logos, and even unforgettable moments frozen in time. Visit homefieldapparel.com and shop the archives. Homefield Apparel, where comfort, nostalgia, and the spirit of college football history unite. Again, that's homefieldapparel.com.
It's time to tip our helmets off to some early football history, and Timothy P. Brown of Football Archaeology joins us today to talk about the history of one of the early helmets. It's the winged helmet and a tribute to this design in our modern era headgear, and Tim Brown is here in a moment with all the details.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. Darren Hayes, pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, and we have another great episode where we're going to talk to our resident expert that not our resident, but we go to footballarchaeology.com residents and talk to their great founder and historian, Timothy P. Brown. Tim, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Darren, thank you. I have a leather helmet sitting here in front of me. It no longer fits.
Yeah, I can see your name etched in the back of it there from your playing days, I assume.
No, this was from my uncle's playing days.
Really? Okay. So that is a genuine game playing helmet then, not a
game used Spalding helmet, and I actually did wear this in my backyard football days in my youth. When the other neighborhood kids had those cheap plastic little things. I didn't have one of those, so I pulled this baby out and protected my noggin.
Well, hey, it's in your logo too, so that's always a good thing too, or something similar to it. So that's great. So, folks, if you didn't realize it yet, our topic today is going to be a tidbit that Tim wrote just a little while ago called When Leather Helmets Earned Their Wings. So we're going to get some history on these leather helmets that Tim just showed us. So, Tim, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so, I think it's fashion and style, it's, everybody's got their own taste, right? Mm-hmm. And I have made public my belief that the 1930s produced the ugliest football uniforms. I've written a post or two on that and provide photographic evidence, which no one has been able to refute so far. They just had stripes going. There were so many stripes on some of those uniforms that it was just ungodly ugly. But the 1930s also produced winged helmets, which now people associate typically with Michigan, Delaware, Princeton, and then there's probably 300 high schools spread across the country that wear those ugly things. But so not to offend you if you're a fan of one of those teams, but they're still ugly. So, but the real point is not, I'm an equal opportunity ugliness kind of historian. So I am willing to discuss the origins of winged helmets. And I think really the funniest thing about them is that they the first team to wear winged helmets was not Michigan, but Ohio State, which is just kind of a fun little.
Yeah, that's really ironic.
Yes. So what happened? In 1930, there were some new rules put in place that required helmets to have different colors, or at least contrasting colors. Now, that could be done either by painting them or by, I think most people are familiar with the straps that ran across the tops, and there were different patterns, including, what we now think of as kind of the Michigan helmet. There were straps running along the crown of the helmet. And so those could be painted, or oftentimes when they produced the helmets, the leather would be in different colors. So the straps might be a dark brown or a light brown, and the rest of it, a different variation. But they did that because in the late 20s, there were people who were, a lot of teams were wearing those friction strip and or friction oval on their shirts, on the front of their jerseys, and on the inside of their arms and things. And they'd wear them in the same color as, some of them would wear them in the same color as the football. So then people were confusing the leather on the arm with the leather on the football. And there were even running backs who would toss their helmet off so that, so the defenders would see the helmet bouncing along the ground and think that's the ball. So they kind of put a stop to that. And they said, okay, your helmets have to have contrasting colors. At the same time, so that was kind of a stylistic, but it also had a functional use. And then at the same time, the manufacturers were all trying to, create better, more protective helmets. And one of the things that they all kind of did at the same time was to add pads on the front of the helmet, or on the front of the helmet, about where, the forehead is. And so rather than just put a pad on there, which is what they had done previously, they started stylizing those pads. And so, one version was the wing that we think of now, where it kind of, it kind of moves around a little bit, and then there's this, kind of these tips on either side. But there were, that wasn't the only version. There were 20, 30 different versions of these things. Some of them were, I don't even know how to describe it, because I did some looking before we talked about the shape, but it's like a cross between an upside down T and a shamrock with three leaves. It kind of had this bulbous thing, like where the wing would be, and then it would extend all the way up to the top of the crown. So anyways, there were just a lot of different variations on these things. And so the wings were functional because they provided additional pads, but for the manufacturers, they were trying to make them look cool, right? So that people would buy them. I mean, if it was between the D&M helmet and the Reach helmet, and they were the same price and presumably the same quality, well, whichever one looked cooler would be the one that you'd order, right? So, anyways, I mean, that's kind of the whole deal of it. And the actual tidbit shows a lot of pictures from sporting goods catalogs at the time. But what's happened is that despite there being many variations back then, I mean, every team that I see pretty much has the same today. The same teams, or all the teams today that use that winged look, seem to pretty much have the same look. They don't use the other versions that were available. So if you're a high school coach or somebody out there that has influence on helmet designs, you can go your own way and adopt one of the looks from the 30s that is something other than the Michigan helmet.
Well, I'm going to have to make a true confession here that I didn't figure out that Michigan's helmet, because that's the one that's the most popular of these winged helmets. I didn't realize, it was a winged helmet. I thought that was representing their mascot of the Wolverine. And I was trying to envision a Wolverine. I'm thinking, boy, do Wolverines have stripes going down their back and down their sides like that? And, like the wings were sort of the ears of it. That's what I thought it was until I got into college and found out otherwise. But I never realized they were sort of modeling it after the leather helmets that came before them on the plastic and whatever they make them out of now. But so very interesting. So
well, I'm glad you felt comfortable sharing that with us.
Yeah, I am. So there's probably people. I'll get the mail coming in now. You idiot! So,
I mean, there's all kinds of things like that where I didn't realize that this is where that came from.
Yeah, I guess I never really put a lot of thought into it, but I just assumed it was a Wolverine. So
yeah,
but
I mean, so actually, in my book, How Football Became Football, I've got a picture of, I can't remember his name right now, but an offensive tackle for Ohio State, and wearing the helmet from 1930. So proof positive that that Michigan didn't invent the things, but they're obviously the ones that it's all associated with now.
And it takes a Wisconsin fan to point that out about the Michigan Ohio State thing.
Actually, there's a Michigan State fan who has documented a fair amount of this stuff out there on the internet. So if you want some others to jump in on that,
these Big Ten rivalries going back in history and picking on their headgear. All good stuff. Well, Tim, that was really enlightening, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing this tonight. Now, you have these tidbits that come out each and every day, 7 days a week, 365. You're a busy guy, and you like to share them, and you like people to enjoy them and comment and share them with other people. Why don't you tell folks how they can get a hold of your tidbits on a daily basis?
Sure. So easiest way is to go to footballarchaeology.com. When you hit the site, if you haven't been there before, it's going to ask you to enroll or subscribe. And all you got to do is just enter your email. It's free. You'll get an email every night with whatever the story is for that day. And you can also follow me on Twitter. Obviously I'm going to throw out some other things on Twitter besides, more commenting on somebody else's things, but I do share all my tidbits there. But subscribing just ensures you get it. And then you can, it's in your inbox. You can ignore it for 2 weeks and then read whatever you want to read. So, that's kind of the value of subscribing to you. But it's supposed to be fun, and hopefully that's the way it comes across.
All right. Well, folks, I highly recommend you take Tim up on that offer to get the tidbits and whatever your preference is to get it. And visit footballarchaeology.com and see the wisdom and knowledge of Timothy P. Brown in action. Tim, thanks a lot, and we will talk to you again next week.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to it.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.